Hello, I'm Montse Alvarado. Welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly.
We can't just say that it's over or she's done her time or it's time to retire.
Husband of pro-life activist Joan Bell says despite the unfair sentencing, their pro-life work will continue.
We need to introduce them again to the reality of the humanity of the preborn.
A new documentary explores how the pro-life movement in the U.S. can help Canadians create a culture of life. We speak with the director of the film.
Not only affect our reproductive health, but also have profound implications for our mental health and our cognitive function.
The pill does more than advertised, and that may be why more women are getting off it, a doctor explains.
A very long sentence for an event like this. We gave the court about half a dozen cases with far more egregious conduct under the same statute. Most of the sentences were 1 to 2 years.
Speaking with EWTN News Nightly, the lawyer for Lauren Handy, who was sentenced on Monday for violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, or the FACE Act, says the fight is not over. Handy is one of 10 demonstrators accused of obstructing a Washington, D.C. abortion clinic in October 2020. Handy received the longest sentence, 57 months, or 4 years and 9 months. 6 others received sentences ranging from 21 to 34 months behind bars. Of those, the eldest activist, 76-year-old Joan Andrews Bell, received 27 months. 74-year-old Jean Marshall Kingston, 69-year-old John Hinsaw face slightly shorter sentences. Paulette Harlow and Heather Idoni will be sentenced in the coming weeks, and Jay Smith was sentenced last August to 10 months. The Department of Justice claims the activists forcefully entered the clinic and set about blockading 2 clinic doors using their bodies, furniture, chains, and ropes. But the pro-life demonstrators say it was a rescue operation at the clinic run by a notorious abortion doctor, Cesare Santangelo, who they claim has performed partial birth abortions, a felony offense. Chris Bell, the husband of Joan Bell, joins us in studio now to talk about the sentencing and what's next. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sure that this is also an emotional moment for you. Walk us through the sentencing and how you're holding up in the midst of this.
Joan is incredibly courageous, and also we recognize from the beginning, and I met her in jail, I should start off by saying. So I knew of her commitment, and that's what really drew me to her deep love of the Lord and love of nonviolence and a desire to save those who were most vulnerable, the babies in the womb, and to help their mothers. She started a pregnancy center, a maternity home in St. Louis a year before I started my maternity home in 1985. And I knew we would come to a day like this, and in this world, certainly in this country at this time, there's such a hatred of God and a hatred of the things of God that I know Joan's love for the children and the women and for our family also makes us realize this is really an opportunity for deep prayer and reparation.
Now, I know you said you met in jail, so this is not the first time that Joan has faced these consequences to her defense of life. What did she say to the judge when she was sentenced? Can you share that with us?
Sure. She first said, please release us so we can continue to do what the court should be doing, which is defending the innocent and the unborn. And then she went on to say that this is not a time to continue this slaughter, and that the children need to be protected, and it really is the right of the justice system to do that.
Is she, are you and she thinking that this will happen again? That she'll serve this sentence and then have to go back because of her advocacy?
As long as abortion is protected, permitted, and paid for by our tax dollars, it has to stop. So how can anybody not try to do as much as we can? So I don't know what form it will take directly, but we can't just say that it's over or she's done her time or it's time to retire. There are children that need help. And although many people don't like the analogy to the Holocaust or to slavery, but the reality is as long as they're an injustice to human beings, living, breathing human beings, and just because they're in the womb, it doesn't make them any less human. They're made in the image and likeness of God. We know that. And why can't everybody see that? And even if they don't believe in God, they certainly can believe in science, which shows us, and that's, you know, as bad as IVF is, it shows us from the moment of conception, you have a unique, beautiful human being. And we could see now that at that first moment of conception, there's a light that goes out. And it was explained to me, it's a little radiation. And it's like talking about the light of life. I mean, it's so beautiful that we can observe this right now and see it in real time. And can everybody understand that we all started that way, every single one of us. So
that intrinsic value. Yeah. Tell us about this particular abortion clinic. It was notorious for the type of abortions happening there. What moved Joan and those advocating alongside her to take these steps at this particular clinic?
You may have seen the live action undercover video that Lila Rose did several years ago, which had this abortionist tell a prospective pregnant woman who was pleading with him, if the baby happened to be born and was still breathing, what would you do? And he said very coldly, very calmly and antiseptically, well, if you were in a hospital, they would have to treat that child. But you're here. We would take care of it. We would just leave it alone. Meaning that a living, breathing, born child would be allowed to die in his office. And he said as if that's as normal and natural, because that's what he does. He only does third trimester abortions. And all abortions are bad at any stage, but to just focus on babies who are they could all survive outside the womb, and he just doesn't want to see that and doesn't do that. It's so cruel, and he's in such a darkness. So we pray for him. We pray for the assistants who work with him to continue this murder, and anybody who supports it. And that's what we saw at the judiciary and the prosecutor. They just kept saying, you're blocking women from getting reproductive health services. There was nothing reproductive going on. These women were pregnant. In the videos that they showed to convict them, there are pregnant women, visibly pregnant women. And the judge even said at the end, you showed them no mercy and no kindness and no compassion. One woman was on the floor, and she obviously was in pain. She may have been in labor. And one of our pro-life friends went to the abortionist and said, could you call 911? And her response was, there's no emergency here except you. And she closed the reception window. And one of the, Paulette Harlow, one of the rescuers, who is a nurse, it was actually Jeannie Marshall, her sister, went over to her and tried to calm her down and tell her to sit down quietly. And they were trying to call 911, but the police came and removed them. And the woman did eventually get forced in to have her child terminated. So there was nothing healthy for her. She'll live with that the rest of her life, as women do. And
yes,
as fathers do also. We're trying to prevent the tragedy to continue.
Now, the FACE Act is the law that was used to convict these the rescues and the rescuers. What are you thinking is going to come next with the FACE Act? Is it possible that that it could be changed, that there's advocacy that would be possible to get rid of this law?
Well, I'm hoping that some of the attorneys, Joan went pro se because she said the babies aren't represented here, so I am not going to have a representative here. And she was quiet throughout the trial. She did try to make an opening statement and a closing statement and was refused by the judge. But I'm hoping some of the attorneys will appeal this because this was based on a Supreme Court decision which no longer exists, Roe v. Wade. And I also hope some members of Congress will have the intestinal fortitude to take it away and remove the FACE Act, an act they never should have permitted, because they did it to prevent other people from rescuing. Because normally when you either blockade a clinic or sit in, you're charged with trespassing, which is a much minor offense. But there shouldn't be any offense at all. You're trying to help women not do something that they will regret the rest of their life and save the babies' lives.
Well, Chris, we will be joining you in prayer for your wife and for the rest of those who are going to suffer through these sentences, and that your prayers are answered in the fortitude that you're requesting of Congress and of the other lawyers. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Monse.
ProLife Weekly and our sister news organization, the Catholic News Agency, will have continuing coverage of this case and the sentencing yet to come. Be sure to follow us. Supreme Court justices have rejected a request to stop a subpoena against pro-life pregnancy centers in New Jersey. New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin subpoenaed first-choice women's resource centers for records, including donor lists and private correspondence. Platkin is one of 16 Democrat attorneys general who have accused pro-life pregnancy centers of spreading misinformation. We will continue to follow this story as it develops. In Louisiana, lawmakers are looking to reclassify abortion drugs as dangerous substances. The amendment could put misoprostol and mifepristone, which are used in more than half of the abortions in the United States, in the same category as narcotics. It would also make it a felony to be found with the drug without a prescription. It was added to a Senate bill that would criminalize giving abortion pills to a woman without her consent. Lawmakers have until June 3rd to give the legislation final approval.
On the operation table, semi-conscious, fear and regret overwhelmed me. Flashbacks and nightmare persist to this day.
Testimonials of regret and heartbreak from women who've had an abortion were heard at this year's March for Life in Ottawa, Canada. The event on May 9th drew thousands to the country's capital city to be the voice for the voiceless. Abortion is commonplace in Canada. It was decriminalized in 1969. Currently, Canada is the only Western nation with zero legal protections for the preborn, meaning abortion is permitted for any reason or no reason whatsoever up until the moment of birth. Euthanasia and assisted suicide is another pro-life concern in Canada. Legalized in 2016, medical assistance in dying or MAID for people with serious and incurable illnesses or disabilities. Those conditions must be in an advanced state or of irreversible decline. And the patient must have enduring and intolerable physical or psychological suffering. In 2021, they removed the need for death to be reasonably foreseeable, opening it up to people like those with Parkinson's disease. And the controversial plan to expand MAID to people who have mental illness has been put on pause until 2027 for further review.
Many people hate the United States for all the wrong reasons. But our country has shamefully, throughout its history, spread abortion around the world.
The influence of the United States promoting abortion in other countries was also highlighted at the march. The overturning of Roe v. Wade by the U.S. Supreme Court sent shockwaves around the world, prompting some countries to enshrine so-called abortion rights into their constitutions, but also igniting a fire of hope for the pro-life movement, including those in Canada. A documentary focusing on how the pro-life movement in Canada can learn from the work done in the United States recently aired here on EWTN. It was produced and directed by Kevin Dunn, who joins us now to talk about it. Kevin, welcome to Pro-Life Weekly. Tell us about this film and what you learned from it.
We basically started to film this incredible journey of these two young women on their quest to see what it would take to see a Dobbs-like decision happen here in Canada. And so the overturning of Dobbs, the overturning of Roe v. Wade really gave us hope here in Canada, where hope seems to be just doesn't seem to exist, at least as we might think of hope. But of course, we know as Christians, hope always exists. I think that these two young women really captured a bit of the fervor from the U.S., tried to see what you good folks did in the USA over the past 50 years, try and bring some of that hope here back to Canada, which of course is a completely different, we have a completely different system here, but just the terrible scourge of abortion still with us. The problem is we're not talking about it enough here in Canada, whereas in the US, it seems to be part of the discourse. We're trying that again, and this film has done that. I believe it has. It's rekindled, or at least assisted in rekindling the discussion here in Canada.
Well, it certainly took some time to get that into the discourse here in the United States as well. You are already working to get schools and use this film and the complementary tools around it in the classroom. What is the reaction that you're getting so far to this initiative?
Well, I was speaking to Bishop Daniel Meem in Ontario. He's involved with the education of the Catholic schools in Ontario. He said, "Well done and much needed," were his words to me. So that was very it was just touched my heart, as did the Bishop Crosby in Hamilton, which is close to us in our diocese here in Hamilton, Ontario. So the response from the diocese has been great. The response, we're working with school boards to make sure that that meets curriculum standards, and to meet young people at a 101 level, because of the discussion we were just talking about is not happening. We need to introduce them again to the reality of the humanity of the preborn. And so the response has been great. We're still developing it. We hope to release it this fall into high schools, not only in Canada, but to have an international version as well. What can we learn from the US? What can we learn from Canada, whose track record is horrible with regards to human rights, so that countries around the world can look to a day when human life is protected from conception to natural death.
Right, protected around the world. Where you talked about the legal realities, Canada technically does not have a law protecting abortion as a so-called right. It simply decriminalized abortion. Why hasn't Prime Minister Justin Trudeau moved to enshrine it in the Canadian Constitution the way we just saw France move?
I can only surmise that to reopen the discussion, I mean, the pro-choice side, the pro-abortion side has everything they want. Why would he open it up for discussion again? If he enshrined it in laws they have in other places around the world, it would mean it having to go back to the courts, a discussion at the Supreme Court level. I surmise they do not want that. They have everything they want. So just let those pro-lifers do whatever they're going to do. We got everything we need right now. Whereas we continue at the March for Life through programs like Row Canada and the other work we do at Dunn Media, and of course through EWTN, who broadcasts, to keep this in the discourse. As hard as it is, as crazy as it is, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to touch it. In the film, you'll hear different journalists talk about that. It's like, no, we don't want to talk about it. And I'm saying, yes, we need to talk about it. Our definition of human right, of when a human becomes a human, is at the time of birth. It's 400 years old. A baby only becomes a baby here in Canada by law when it is born. This is crazy. It's arcane. And so we need to open that discussion, and hopefully this film is going to do that.
Well, we're grateful for your work, and we'll continue to share this with our audience. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks, Monty.
You can watch the documentary Row Canada, Finding the True North in a Post-Roe World on EWTN On Demand starting on May 29th. Just look under the pro-life section. Pope Francis urged Italians to have children and embrace the family life while speaking at the annual State of Natality last Friday. The annual conference focuses on creating ways to reverse the country's plummeting birth rate. Italy has one of the lowest birth rates in Europe, falling for 15 consecutive years, according to the National Statistics Bureau. At the meeting, Francis told his audience that selfishness, not children, are the root of the world's problems.
Ma la vita umana non è un problema, è un dono.
But human life is not a problem, it is a gift. And at the root of pollution and starvation in the world are not children being born, but the choices of those who think only of themselves, the delirium of an unbridled, blind in rampant materialism, of a consumerism that, like an evil virus, undermines the existence of people and society at the root.
The Holy Father went on to say that family-friendly choices need to be more prevalent. For example, childcare for women who wish to work. Coming up, concerns over side effects are leading women throwing out their birth control pills. We speak with a doctor who explains how synthetic hormones can impact the body and the mind. Oral contraceptives for women are commonplace in today's culture. They're promoted by doctors and drug companies. Lawmakers push for greater access to it, writing bills to require insurance policies to cover the costs. And federal agencies like the Food and Drug Administration have now approved some of these artificial hormones to be available over the counter. The O pill is the first over-the-counter contraceptive in the United States and became available just this March. It can be found at the corner pharmacy or even online, and there are no restrictions for the progesterone-based birth control. It can be dispensed without a prescription and with no age limits. But there is a growing trend to ditch the pill. More and more women are deciding to no longer take oral contraceptives due to concerns of the side effects. According to the Cleveland Clinic, potential side effects may include nausea, headaches, spotting, and moodiness. A small percentage of women taking estrogen-containing birth control pills are at an increased risk of deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, high blood pressure, heart attack, and stroke, according to the Cleveland Clinic. Some websites for these drugs include warnings about the serious side effect of blood clots, especially in women who smoke, are obese, or are older than 35. Dr. Marguerite Duane, a board-certified family physician and executive director of Facts Fertility, joins us now to provide her medical expertise on this subject. A study in Denmark of more than 1 million women found that hormonal contraception, especially among adolescents, was associated with a first diagnosis of depression and the use of antidepressants. Can you talk about the impact that these synthetic hormones are having on the brain and on emotions, especially for these young women?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I think what's important to remember is that the female hormones, estradiol and progesterone, not only affect our reproductive health, but also have profound implications for our mental health and our cognitive function. In fact, estrogen plays a critical role in brain development in adolescence and in cognitive function and cognitive decline as women age. So estradiol and progesterone hormones are very, very important for our mental health. And when we use oral contraceptive pills or synthetic hormones to shut down the normal production of estradiol and progesterone, it can have profound consequences, leading to increased risk of depression, and as you noted in this study in Denmark, also a significant increased risk in suicide. And so it's important that women are fully informed, especially adolescents, because these methods, these synthetic hormones, can significantly impact their overall health, including their mental health, as well as carrying a wide range of other side effects.
Well, let's talk about those side effects, especially when we're talking about the impact of birth control on women with other medical issues or conditions. Are those explained to women before they are prescribed birth control, whether it's pills or whatever other form?
You know, unfortunately, typically not. Oftentimes, women are informed about mild side effects like nausea or headache, but they're often not given the full list of side effects that hormonal contraceptives can have. And it's important to note that these oral methods of birth control can affect every aspect of a woman's health. So for example, there's research showing, and in fact, the World Health Organization classifies combination hormonal birth control pills as a group 1 carcinogen because of the significant increased risk in breast cancer and cervical cancer. And although hormonal birth control may reduce the risk of ovarian and endometrial cancer, the incidence of those cancers is much less than breast cancer. And yet many women are not informed that, in fact, synthetic combination birth control is a class 1 carcinogen because of a documented significant increased risk in breast and cervical cancer. Hormonal birth control can also significantly increase a woman's risk for blood clots. This can cause blood clots that go to the brain, resulting in a stroke, can also cause blood clots that go to the lungs, resulting in what we call a pulmonary embolism, and these can be fatal. Now, the question is, why are women not informed? Well, the risks are exceedingly low. In fact, the risk of blood clots and cancer may be less than 1%, but it's important to note these are risks. And whether that 1% is your wife or your sister or your daughter who may suffer not only a serious or permanent illness, but even death, women should be informed. And through my work at Facts, I've encountered many families who have had to bury their daughters and their sisters due to the side effects. It's important to place it in perspective, but again, women need to be fully informed because what they're taking birth control for is often to suppress their fertility, which is a normal, healthy state. In fact, hormonal birth control is the most widely prescribed medication given to healthy individuals to effectively create a disease state by causing infertility. So informed consent is key. It's important to place it in context in terms of the risks, but women need to know so that they can make the best decisions. And they need to be aware of the alternatives like fertility awareness-based methods that have no medical side effects.
Now, Dr. Duane, the National Survey of Family Growth found that many Catholic couples use contraception in one form or another, which of course is not endorsed by the church. You just mentioned fertility awareness methods. What other options are there and how effective are they?
Yeah, great question and a great point. Many Catholics and many women, in fact, take birth control for a wide variety of reasons because they're often offered it in adolescence for common concerns like irregular cycles or painful periods. But what's important to note is hormonal birth control does not treat the underlying causes of these symptoms of painful periods and irregular cycles. It may suppress the symptoms and improve the pain, or it may result in a regular withdrawal bleed, leading women to think that they're having regular periods, but in reality, they are not. The idea behind using fertility awareness-based methods is with these methods, women can learn to chart their cycles. And in fact, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists recognizes the female cycle as a fifth vital sign. And when women chart their cycles with a fertility awareness-based method, and there are a number of evidence-based methods, the Billings ovulation method, the Creighton model, the symptothermal method, the Marquette method, and FEM, there are a number of methods out there that women can learn to chart their cycle. And when they work with physicians like myself who are trained in restorative reproductive medicine, we can use the chart from their fertility awareness-based method to help in diagnosing and treating these underlying conditions that warrant treatment and conditions that in many instances hormonal birth control does not actually treat.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for watching this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Be sure to follow us on social media for trending pro-life news. EWTN Pro-Life is on X, Facebook, and Instagram. And for news right in your email, sign up for the Pro-Life Pulse at EWTN.com/pro-life. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.